Hello folks, in this video we will discuss about an incredibly important concept in JavaScript, promises. So what are promises? A promise is an object in JavaScript that returns a value based on the condition that an operation is successful or it's failed. So let's see by an example. So I will write const promise small p over here, and I can create the promise object like this, promise, and inside it will expect two arguments. Now in general I can name these arguments anything I want. I can name it a and b, but a convention is to use the words resolve and reject. Now I will create one arrow function over here. Again, I can create a normal function also, but it is a convention to use an arrow function. Now what is this resolve and reject? We will see that later. First of all, let's simply console log this small p promise, and we get something over here. Let's see what it is. So it is saying that the prototype is promise, and the promise state is pending, and the promise result is undefined. So this is very important. So every promise has three states. It is either pending, or it is fulfilled, or it is rejected. So this promise here, it is in pending state. So let's see how we can make the promise either fulfilled or rejected. So I can simply call the resolve method over here. So only to remind you that this resolve and reject are the two arguments inside a promise, which is again two different functions. So this resolve is a function which is expected to run when the promise is successful. So now when we are logging out, we can see, okay, let me save this one. Now when we are logging out, we can see that the promise state is fulfilled. Now the result is still undefined. We will come to that later. But now if we run the reject method, we will see that there is an error, but apart from that the promise state is rejected. So this is how basically how the promise states change. So now let's change this back to resolve, and now inside let's pass some value. This is the resolved state. So now when we log out, we see that the value is this is the resolved state and the promise state is fulfilled. Now in case of reject, we will get the same thing. Let's make it this is the rejected state, and we get the state as rejected and the result as this is a rejected state. So this is how in general promise works. But the question is, how can we use both the resolve and reject? So let's say I have some operation over here. Let's say some operation, and based on that operation I have a condition. Let's say the condition is true. Then in that case I will execute this resolve, and in case the condition is false, I will execute this one. So now as you can see, in this case the resolve will be executed because the condition inside if is true. So I will get this thing, promise as this is undefined. So let's make it success, and let's make it failure. So this is in general how promises work. So in place of some operation and such small condition, it will be much more complex code in real life. Now how promises actually help us is to avoid something called callback hell that we have already discussed in our callback video. You can check it out, I'll put it in the description. So now let's see a different way to check our promises. So we can do something like this, promise.then, and inside this then it is expecting that this resolve method will execute. So here by default I will have some value, and this value is a data. And now if I console log this data, you will see something. So it is saying there is a syntax error and some bracket is missing. Yeah, that is because this semicolon should be outside. Yeah, and as you can see, this success is being printed over here. And but what happens if I change this to false? Now we know that it should execute this reject one, but do we get the result or not? Let's see. So as you can see, we are not getting any result, and that is because for failures we don't use .then, we use .catch, and inside this catch it is a convention that we use error, and then we can log out the error. And now when we run this thing, okay, again same error. Okay, let's also change these things to the second line, because then it will be much easier to read. Okay, it's changing on its own. Let's close this thing. Yeah, so as you can see now this failure is getting executed. So this is how promises work in general, that whatever operation we have, Based on the success, we want to return few things. Based on the failure, we want to return something else. And in those cases, we can use a promise. And we can keep on using this dot then in place of the callback help. So that is how promises work, which makes our life a lot easier than callbacks. So right now, let's check one example with how promises can help us, like how functions can return some promise. So there are a lot of functions that are returning promises. We will see that later. But right now, let's create one custom function. Let's create one function to check if a number is even or not. Let's say it's number even. And this function will basically check whether this number is even or not. And let's pass one number over here. And we can return one promise from this. So if the number is even, it will execute this resolve. Otherwise, it will go to the reject. So let's return new promise. And inside this promise, what do I have? I will have the resolve and the reject. And let's also add one more thing, that I want this thing to be executed, let's say after 3 seconds. So I will do one set interval over here, and let's put 3 seconds. And inside this 3 seconds, what I will check is if type of num is equals to number. And why we are checking this? Because some dumb user may pass some strings also. So we can check over here type of, let's say 5. This is a number, but let's say user passes something like this, type of, let's say 5. So this becomes a string. So we need to check if this is a real number or not. So after that, let's also check if this number is actually divisible by 2 or not. So we can use a modulus operator like this. And inside we will pass this resolve one, and that is this number, this is an even number. And if it is not even, then inside the else we will pass that, we will again pass the resolve, because it's not like this is an error or something. So we will pass this as an odd number. And that's the resolve part. And now in the reject part, what I will do is, if this is not a number, let's say, so I will do one reject. And the convention is we will pass something like this, new error, and let's say the input was not a number, input wasn't a number. That's it. So this is our function, and let's see how we can execute this one. So let's say first of all, I will take my is number even. Let me pass something, some even number over here. Let's pass 14. And then we have to do something, and that is dot then. And let's say inside I have my data or result or anything. You can make it res. And then let me console log the res. And what do we get? Okay, again syntax error, same error is coming. Okay, is number is even, and in res, yeah, after 3 seconds we are getting that this is an odd number, because there is some issue over here, and this should be equals to 0. Okay, now after 3 seconds, okay, let's make it only after 1 second. It is taking a lot of time. So after 1 second, we are getting that this is an even number, which is absolutely correct. And then we can also do something like catch error. Let's get the error, and then we will simply console log our. Now this time we will do error, console log error, and okay, same issue again. And this is an even number, and let's make it 13. No issues with that. It will say this is an odd number. Let's make it hello. What will happen now? Okay, so it is giving us an error, and that is input wasn't a number. But we can also do something like this, error dot message. Okay, it's a dot message, and what will happen in this case? We will only get our error message. So this is a small example of how we can use promises, which is being returned from a function. So this is very common when we are using async await. That's it for this video. If you still have some doubts regarding promises, make sure to put that out in the comment section below. I would like to know where you were stuck so that I can make better videos in the future. So yeah, thanks for watching. Bye bye.